Nobody is looking at you with 10 times magnified eyes. Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Carmel, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you some small changes that I've made to my makeup routine that have made the most significant difference to me in my 40s. So it's going to be everything from practical tweaks and techniques to mindset shifts and changes. So if that sounds like something that you might be interested in, then please do keep on watching. So I'll be turning 44 this year, and I've been wearing makeup for over 30 years at this stage. So I love it. I have been through journeys with my makeup routine in every decade that I've worn makeup, but the most significant changes to my makeup routine and to my attitude has come in my 40s, and I still don't get it right. I'm still learning, absolutely. But I'm going to start by talking you through some of the attitudes I changed towards my base application and how I approach it now. So I think the most significant thing that has changed for me in my 40s is to actually become aware of my changing skin. And I'm not talking about fine lines and wrinkles here, because I knew that that was going to happen. I knew that I was going to develop lines, wrinkles. I knew that I was going to lose volume in my face, that parts of my face were going to start to recede and drop. I was prepared for that, but what I wasn't prepared for in my 40s was my actual changing skin. And I developed rosacea in my 40s. Yeah, and I just was not expecting it. So I definitely bought into the misconceptions when it came to rosacea, that it only affected certain groups of people, predominantly people with fair skin. So when I started to have massive issues on my face and I couldn't for the life of me figure out what it was a real shock when I was diagnosed with rosacea in the way that it's changed how I do things. Well, I am now much more aware of what I'm putting on my face. So up until 2 years ago, I was blindly just going out and buying whatever foundation that I fancied. But now I'm much more aware of ingredients, and I would absolutely advise you to do the same. So with rosacea, I really should be avoiding products with denatured alcohol and with fragrance in. Now, I'm not specifically sensitive to those things. However, they can be triggers. So although I still do use products with those ingredients in, I'm much more aware now of what I'm purchasing and what I'm putting on my face. And so that's been the most significant change that I kind of was forced into. So if I was to give any advice to you, it would be to just be aware of your skin and possible changes. And if you see something changing, then do a bit of research into that, because I felt like I had to become a little bit of an expert on rosacea. And look, it's not the end of the world, but it's just important to be aware that your 40s can be a significant time when it comes to your skin, and that can impact your makeup routine. I talk open and honestly about the issues across my face. So yeah, it doesn't look bad now because I've got makeup on, but I've got very dark under eyes, hyperpigmentation, broken capillaries, rosacea. Okay, so all of those issues. And I cover up those issues with concealer and foundation. Now, the problem is when you have significant issues on your face, I have definitely fallen into the trap of applying more and more products. But the one way that I kind of avoid doing this, and this is the other significant change that I've made in my 40s, is that I guess in my 30s, I would start with my foundation. However, now I start my complexion with my under eyes. So I always do my concealer first. And there's a couple of reasons for this. So let's just look at my face with no complexion products on. I am immediately drawn to the darkness under my eyes. So if I then go in with a foundation first, I am going to apply foundation and I'm still going to be looking at those under eyes. So I will apply more and more. However, I have realized that if I start with my concealer first and I get rid of that significant problematic area first, then I am inclined to go in with a lot less foundation. Covering up dark under eyes first can honestly change your whole face. So I would say to you that that has been a significant change in my 40s that has made a really big impact. So going in, concealing my under eyes first, and then I know how much of my complexion I need to cover. And honestly, when I look at my complexion as a whole, it's not too bad. I don't need to be piling on the makeup really to get coverage. Once I get rid of those under eyes, it really does look a lot less daunting. So that's one great change that I made in my 40s. And another reason that I always do my concealer first. I know that if I go in with foundation first on my complexion without having done my under eyes, I will bring foundation underneath my eyes. And that is just asking for trouble for a couple of reasons. Well, I can only speak for myself, but in my 40s, my under eyes have not only become much darker, they've become much thinner, much crepier. So if I go in with foundation under my eyes and then I top it off with a load of concealer, well, I'm just asking for trouble. I'm asking for cakiness, creasing, and it's just not going to look good or flattering. So whereas I used to put foundation under my eyes in my 30s, now I've learned that if I go in with concealer first and then go in with foundation and just blend it up towards my concealer, it's much more flattering. And so I don't have to worry about excessive product under the eyes, because honestly, my under eyes cannot take excessive amounts of product at all. So really small changes, but honestly, really significant in my 40s. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about is product choices. And I don't mean specific product choices, but I'm actually talking about some smart swaps that I made in my 40s that I feel have made a really significant difference. And I feel like the biggest one, and it's one that I do talk about often, is that I really did make the switch from using predominantly powder products to using predominantly creams and liquids. And this is, again, I guess this is on the complexion. I don't have issues with using powder products really on my eyes. It's on my face. So I do have dry skin, so that's something to bear in mind. Now, don't get me wrong, I am still partial to powder products. I still use powder bronzers, powder blushes, but not as much as I use cream blushes, liquid blushes, cream bronzers, because I just find that they are much more flattering. So my skin has become drier in my 40s. As I said, it's become thinner. And I feel like when I use powder products, especially kind of in this area where my fine lines are developing, I just don't like the look of it. It really does emphasize those fine lines that I have. Whereas I feel like when I pop a cream on, it looks more hydrated, it looks more youthful, and can look more natural. Now, I think that a really common misconception when it comes to liquids and creams is that they're all super glowy. And that's what I wanted to just chat about for a little second. I love glowy products. They are my preference, but it's not the preference for everybody. But I did just want to say that if you have been wanting to make a switch to liquids and creams, but you don't like glowy products, don't be worried, because there are lots of soft matte cream products and soft matte liquid products now. Products have come such a long way. So just because it's a cream or a liquid doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be glowy. There are so many options from so many different price points now. I think that moves me on to my next point. And this is when I look at all of the products I own and really sit here and think, do I actually need all of these products? And that's definitely something that I've done in my 40s and I felt more confident to do. Whereas in my 30s, I would sit and watch YouTube and I would buy everything that the YouTuber would recommend to me, and I would try and make them all work. But I've definitely got to a point in my 40s where I'm thinking, right, is this product still working for me? So let me give you an example. So like I said to you, been suffering with rosacea. The last, I'd say, year has been particularly tough. A lot better now, but it has been tough. And I still was in the mindset that I needed to use, for example, highlighter on my cheeks, because everybody wears highlighter and that's what I should be doing. So I tried to force it, and I did just get to a point, and you'll notice in my videos that I just did not use highlighter for a very long time, because I felt confident enough in my 40s to say that step does not work for me anymore. So I'm happy to get rid of it. And that can be applicable to any type of product in your makeup routine. So I say this all the time as well. Do you really need to use a contour and a bronzer in your routine? I know that's really controversial for some people. However, really look at your makeup routine and think, can I really live without a bronzer and a contour? Because I can tell you that I've got many products here that double up as a 2-in-1. So for example, I used the MAC Multi Sculpt today. I used it on my eyes and I used it as a contour bronzer. I absolutely love the Morphe blush trios, and they just brought out some new shades, and one of them is this one, which is called Yacht Day. And this cream blush up here I've been using as a blonzer, so basically a bronzer and a blush in one. So just cutting down the amount of products that I'm actually putting on my face. Number one, it looks more flattering on my face because I'm wearing less, and number two, it's saving me a lot of time and money is another point that I want to make, and I know that not everybody will agree with me when it comes to this. And this kind of comes off the back of what I've just been talking about with liquids, creams and powders. And I've definitely got to a point in my 40s where I'm looking at my face and thinking, right, so I've got dry skin and I don't like the look of powder on my face. Do I really need to use a setting powder? Do I really need to use a loose powder? Now, the answer is occasionally. If I'm going out somewhere, of course I will use some powder. It helps with the longevity of my makeup. If I'm filming, I definitely use some powder because these lights definitely make me very shiny. However, on a daily basis, I've definitely got to the point where I'm happy to say, I don't need any scrap of powder on my face today, because I think we need to be, especially as we are aging, more realistic when it comes to the function of powder. Because what does powder do? It's there to soak up oils, soak up moisture. It's there to mattify. And I really feel like I'm at a significant point in my life where I'm more comfortable to say, I'm not going to use powder just because everybody else is, just because I feel like I should be. I'm definitely at the point now where I'm happy to not use powder as much, to make smart swaps in my routine. Definitely feel like in your 40s, you definitely get to a point where you just feel a little bit more confident in saying, I don't think I really need that. I feel like if you are watching this video, you consume quite a bit of beauty content, and I really only consume it on YouTube, and it's been a great platform for me to learn from. And I have been watching beauty YouTube for many, many years. So I think this is definitely related to the previous points that I made, but when it comes to products and placement, that has been significantly different for me in my 40s. And it's because I have definitely got to a point now where I am realizing that it's not one size fits all. The structure of our faces can change in our 40s, and mine most definitely has. So obviously I have lost volume in my face quite significantly, and one of the major places that I've lost volume is actually my temples. And how did I notice this? Well, it was because of my bronzer placement. So I would be following my favorite YouTubers and they would be telling me where to place the bronzer. So obviously in the usual places, on the cheeks, on the forehead, maybe around here, but also to place it on your temples. And it was only really when I started to think about theory and the theory of light and dark. So if I put a light color somewhere, so let's say for example my under eyes, if I put a light color into my under eye hollows, it's going to help bring that forward a little bit. That's the illusion that it gives. But in the same breath, if I put a darker color somewhere on my face, it's going to give the illusion of pushing it back a bit. That's how we use contour to structure our face, for example. And I was blindly putting contour bronzer on my temples, but I wasn't fully aware of my changing facial structure. So I was inadvertently pushing my temples further back into my head, and therefore it was going to be way more unflattering than what it should be. So I've definitely become way more aware of my changing facial structure, and this has informed not only where I put my bronzer, but actually I'd say only within the last few months I've definitely started to change up where I'm putting my blush. So I think we've all been watching videos that tell us that if we want more of a lifted face, which, hey, I definitely want one of those. If we want that, then to place the blush a little bit higher, and that's generally where I place blush. However, I have definitely got to a point now where I'm happy and confident to change up the placement of my blush. So, for example, I'm a little bit happier now bringing it down a little bit more to the apples of my cheeks, because that is going to give me a fuller looking face. And I feel like that looks a little bit more youthful on me. Now, it's never going to be aesthetically pleasing to everybody, but where you place your makeup should make you happy, not anybody else. I would say place blush wherever you want it. If you want to put it on the apples of your cheek, go for it. It's going to give you a bit more of a fuller looking face. If you want to have more of a lifted and sculpted looking face, then you are going to put blush a little bit higher and maybe a little bit further back. There's no right or wrong here, but I think that just becoming more aware of my facial structure and my changing facial structure, that's really, really important. My changing facial structure has definitely informed my placement. So I would say follow your face and follow the changes. And yeah, it's definitely never going to be one size fits all, ever. So I just wanted to talk through a few practical tweaks and techniques that I have changed up in my 40s. So one of the most significant ones is when I look at my lip product application in my 30s to my 40s. So I would obviously have lip liners in my collection in my 30s, but did I use them? No. And I know that people don't get excited over lip liners, but for me, they are incredibly impactful in a makeup routine. So I think, as we know, we lose volume in our lips as we get older, and we also lose pigment. And so investing in lip liners in my 40s has been so significant because I am somebody who does not have lip filler. So I need to fake the volume. And you do not have to be spending a fortune, by the way, on lip liners. The lip liner I have on today cost me €1. So just going in and gently overlining the lips before I go in with my lip product has made such a difference to me in my 40s. I could not go anywhere without a lip liner in my handbag. I love them. And again, I know people don't get excited over lip liners, but I see the benefit of them, and I've really experienced the benefit of them in my 40s. And sticking with lips, I've definitely started to use more glossy products in my 40s. Now, I'm not talking about lip glosses because I'm not the biggest fan of lip glosses, but just shiny lip products. And the main reason for that is because shiny lip products make your lips look fuller. So the way that the light reflects off your lips will give the illusion of fuller lips. Now, don't get me wrong, matte lipsticks are great. I enjoy matte lipsticks every now and again. They're great for longevity. However, if I want my lips to look more full, if I want them to look a little bit more plump without the lip filler, then I'm going to go in with a glossier. Doesn't have to be gloss, it can be a satin, just a really nice gentle shine like the one I've got on today. So just those little changes by always wearing a lip liner and leaning towards glossier products have definitely given me way more confidence moving forward into my 40s. Yes, I'm going to be losing the volume and the pigment, but these products definitely give me a little bit more confidence back, and it's been great. Now, a really significant thing that happened to me in my 40s is that I became aware of cohesive makeup. So what do I mean by that? I mean that once upon a time, not long ago, I would definitely just choose whatever palette, whatever lipstick, whatever blush I wanted to use. I would not think about the undertones. I would not think about how they would work cohesively together. And this has definitely been something that has evolved over my 40s. So what do I mean by that? So let's imagine that we have more of a cool toned eye look. And then if we go in with a real warm, peachy lipstick, that is not going to look as flattering as if we went in with more of a cooler or a neutral toned lipstick. And actually, when you compare it side by side, the difference is quite stark. So I obviously didn't notice this in my 30s, and it was never an issue. And look, it's not the end of the world if the undertones of your blush, eyeshadow and lipstick don't work cohesively together. You know, no one really is going to notice. However, I think you will notice a difference way more. I feel like if I wear a warm lipstick with a really cool eyeshadow look, my face just looks a little bit harsh, whereas if I match them up cohesively, then everything looks a little bit softer and a little bit more youthful. Now, again, that is just an opinion, but it has been significant for me in my 40s because I didn't have a clue in my 30s. Well, I still don't have a clue, really, in my 40s, but I'm doing a whole lot better than I was. So I just want to mention some of the mindset shifts I've had in my 40s that have made the biggest difference. The most significant mindset shift that I've had is that I've learned to step away from the mirror. Oh my gosh, I definitely in my 30s went through turmoil with how I looked and just tearing myself apart. And I think a significant part of that was that I couldn't get away from how I looked. So I'm sure that you can relate that, you're seeing yourself all the time, especially with smartphones now that we have a camera on them. We can check how we look every 2 minutes. There's pictures appearing of us on social media all the time. And when we see ourselves, we overanalyze our faces. Like, that's just a normal human thing to do. But I've definitely learned in my 40s to step away from the 10 times magnifying mirror, step away from the car mirror. I'm going to be real with you. When I look at myself in a car mirror, I literally want to call a surgeon. Nobody needs that in their life, seriously. And this is the most significant thing that I'm starting to do in my 40s. If I look decent in my regular mirror, be happy with that. I do not need a 10 times magnifying mirror to tell me how my face looks, okay? Nobody is looking at you with 10 times magnified eyes. Like, no one is doing that. When a person looks at you, they are looking at your whole face, okay? And that's something that I have really tried to ingrain in myself, that people are not looking at you and staring at your under eyes, okay? They're not looking at those little fine lines and the wrinkles and the concealer that's sitting into them. I definitely, when I'm looking at a person, I look at their whole face and I see them as a whole being, not looking at how small their lips are or how their jowls are forming. No one's doing that. And if they are, do you really need to be talking to them? Really? I mean, that's a point for another video, but seriously, step away from the 10 times magnifying mirror and step away from the car mirror, because they can do no good. So in my 30s, social media was born. It's actually a really hard time to be aging. It's a hard time to be in your 40s, 50s, 60s, because, and I get so frustrated with this, because, and I was doing this in my 30s, I go onto Instagram and every now and again I'll spend 2 seconds on TikTok and I can't believe the skin that I'm seeing on people, because you can't see their skin. Now, I'm pretty sure you can see my pores right now, and I do that intentionally. I don't have a lens on my camera that smooths out skin, and I know a lot of people do. I want you to see my face. I want you to see my wrinkles. I want you to see it for what it is. I have skin. I have normal skin. When I go onto certain platforms, all I'm looking at is filtered skin. It's actually really, really scary. And we are constantly comparing ourselves to those people. So let me just give you an example. So let me just turn down some of these lights. Look at that. Can you see texture on my skin now more? You can see all of my issues. You can see my wrinkles. And I don't have the amount of lights that some people do, but I will log on and I will see people literally with the most flawless complexion, and they are older than me. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute, what's going on here? And remember, we are at that age where we have witnessed the birth of social media and we've been sucked into it and sucked into the lies, but it's not real. And I've definitely come to a point in my 40s where I feel much more comfortable in how my skin really looks. Like, that is skin, that's skin. Okay, that is normal. So stop letting the internet fool you in your 40s and your 50s and your 60s and 70s that skin doesn't have pores and texture and wrinkles and darkness, because it does. Okay, look at the difference. I mean, that's ridiculous, isn't it? Obviously, I need that lighting to be able to be seen, but I really do hope that you are following content creators in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s that are really good influences on you and that will show you their skin. If you see a blurred face, if all you can see is smooth skin, then they're lying to you. Don't be following people like that, because it's not going to do you any good in your 40s, believe me. And this is coming from somebody who has been through the traumas, but I can tell you that making that change from my 30s to my 40s has changed my life. Skin is normal, pores are normal, texture's normal, wrinkles, fine lines, they are normal. So in your 40s, surround yourself with what is normal and not what is fake. So I really do hope that this video was a little bit helpful for you. Just know that in your 40s, things do change, but it doesn't have to be a negative experience, and don't be afraid to make changes. I have definitely become more confident in myself, in moving forward, in making changes and not doing things to please others or not doing things because the internet tells me to. Have the confidence to know you, know yourself, know your face, and move forward positively. And stop comparing yourself to things that are not real. And I think you'll be very happy in your 40s and beyond. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. I so appreciate you being here with me. I'm really looking forward to seeing you in the next video. But until then, take care and bye for now.